Patrick Cook here. So welcome to session number 10 of Fun with Mandelbulb3D Mutations. This is actually a pretty good tool. It really is, and I have found it very useful. Going all the way back to our early sessions in this tutorial series, series number 4, I started off by talking about how the MutaGen can actually increase productivity and increase creativity. And I think hopefully you're finding that that is the case, because I can use the MutaGen to get to interesting Mandelbulb graphic designs. I can get there quicker. And that's a cool thing. All right, let's continue this. What I'm going to do is I'm going to go all the way back, all right, and I'm going to get my original, send it to main. There we go. So this is what I started off with. I will be talking about this generation history, don't worry. Let's talk about this iteration count. Now, what's interesting here, and I recall talking about this in mastering Mandelbulb3D formulas. The iteration count that this is referring to is the iteration count for the formula. All right. Now, if I was to do this, if I was to set this iteration count to 10, I think we're going to find it won't make any difference. And the reason for that is because this entire Mandelbulb object was able to be formed with one iteration of the formula. One iteration. All right, that is the number of times that the formula will be repeated. All right, so this particular Mandelbulb object can be fully drawn with one iteration. Let me put 10 iterations in there. All right, let's calculate it. Same thing. Let me put 99 iterations in there. It's the same thing. The point I'm making is that some Mandelbulb objects can be completely drawn and fully formed with one iteration of the formula. All right, now back to the MutaGen. So if I was to try to mutate with this all the way to the left, we already know that that's disabled. If I try to mutate this all the way to the right, the maximum probability, all right, we're going to find that, oh, my mistake, I've got Julia mode still turned on. That's why we're getting some differences here. I'm going to disable all. Now, oh, let's go back. Okay, so here we go. We're at our first generation. All right, let's repeat that. Mutate with all these things, all these options turned off. All right, now I'm going to turn this iteration count all the way up to the max, mutate, and I should see no changes at all, which is consistent with what I demonstrated up here. This particular Mandelbulb object can be fully formed or written to the screen with one iteration. Now that's not true with all formulas. I should say with all formula constructs. All right, let's try an experiment. I'm going to turn all this off. I turned all my options off. Now I'm going to go here, and I'm going to back up on my generations. Let's see, I'm just trying to find, oh, here we go. So let's send that up to main. Here we go. Oh, that's one formula. Okay. All right. I'm searching for a formula construct where this iteration count will actually have some, will actually do something different. I'm just testing. I'm going to put 30 in there, calculate it. Now, See, this Mandelbulb object can still be fully written with one iteration. That's not really working for me. Let's go take this bad boy here. Okay, now that's got 3 formulas. This is a mutation that I just sent up to the main editor. I'm looking for an iteration count, all right, that will be meaningful. I'm going to take formula number 2. I'm going to slam that up to 30 iterations. Let's see if, oh, now that made a difference. Okay, good. Now, I'm going to send this back to the MutaGen. You see what happened? I clicked on the MutaGen button and it sent it back down here and it cleaned up all the old generations. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to increase this change iteration count, which is impacting this number right here. Okay? I'm going to mutate. All right, now we're getting a sense for what happens when you modify only the iteration count. See, these are all turned off, you see? They're all disabled. Okay, so this is what happens when you modify the iteration count, but don't modify the Julia mode, don't modify the parameters of the formulas, and don't add or remove or exchange formulas. This is iteration count only. All right? All right, so let's do it again. So if I do it again, you see, I'm getting different results because the MutaGen is somewhat randomly modifying the iteration count. Now let's just take one of these mutants. I'm going to take this one right here. I'll just pick it at random. I'm going to send it up to the main editor. And we want to look at these iteration counts now. Formula number 1, one iteration, one iteration, formula number 2, one iteration, formula number 3, one iteration. Okay. So let's take this one here. There we go. You see, MutaGen assigned an iteration count to formula slot number 2. It set it to 2. Formula slot number 1 was set to 1. Formula slot number 3 was set to 1. All right, so that particular iteration structure, formula 1 is 1, formula 2 is 2, formula 3 is 1. That particular iteration count gave us this Mandelbulb object. Okay? All right? All right, so that's what your iteration count does. It modifies the iteration count of the formula. Now, it may or may not, MutaGen may or may not modify the iteration count of all of the available formulas. It may not. We don't have any control of that. When we have it to the max there, we just simply say, look, you decide. You decide if there's multiple formulas. You decide which iteration count you're going to assign to each of the formula slots. All right? Okay. So let's end this session here. And when we come back, we're going to talk about this generation. And then we're going to get up into here into the strengths. All right? And we're moving up to a point here where hopefully we understand the MutaGen so well that we can extract some really, really interesting results from it. Okay? All right. So I'll see you in the next session. We're going to talk about these generations. We'll talk about strength. I'll see you there.